On tonight's show, the revenants of Reform UK, the haunting of GB News, aliens, isolation, and the shivers in the sky. Hi, I'm Andree and welcome to Screencleaner. This is the first of a semi-regular series designed to enlighten, entertain and anger. And because this falls around Halloween, I'll be trying to spook the bejesus out of you as well. There are guest contributors who will talk about the hilarity they have creeping around horror culture, and they'll break up my ridiculous looks and bird-like voice. This week I've been looking at the UK Parliament's Register of Members' Interests. This is where the elected are expected to report donations. Okay, Morgan? It's fascinating insights. Many MPs can't wait for Halloween. Much like the high street, they want to move on to Christmas and gifting straight away. Looking at how each MP differently values the cost of the same dinner they've been given works as a sort of restaurant review listing.
Hey, as long as they put bread on the table, I didn't ask questions.
Well, I've got some questions. How about some butter with that bread? And maybe a nice chunk of ham?
I've long wanted to work as a writer, producer on television, and there's a lot of details on the budget for these. One TV station is devoted to 24/7 live horror, no matter the season, no matter the cost. GB News regularly brings aboard privately educated bog beast Esther McVeigh. McVeigh used to present Friday and Saturday blood breakfast shows with her husband, who never took the makeup off after appearing in The Walking Dead. Their show was modelled on ITV's Richard and Judy, though more dickhead and Dupey.
Good morning. You're watching and listening to GB News. This is Saturday morning with Esther and Phil.
We've got a fantastic show lined up for you today. We'll be discussing blasphemous bread, COVID vaccine damages, and whether babies should be allowed into the Houses of Parliament.
All of that plus much more after your latest headlines with Ray.
Philip Davies is a man who is aggressively misogynistic, racist, homophobic and a disabled basher. I think it's a plan the next revision of the Bible has his name in place of Satan's. While he was a Tory MP, Pip Davies accrued over £80,000 from gambling lobbies. It was rumoured he put a tenth of that on a bet he'd lose his seat in Shipley, West Yorkshire. There's likely no truth in this rumour. He did lose a seat, although it's curious that Ladbrokes aren't offering any kind of odds on whether or not he'll try to put his penis inside a Brighton seagull tomorrow. Nowadays, Aunt Diamond mans Esther and Philip's couch, a diamond in the shit, if you will. Still, McVeigh regularly haunts G-Babies and other TV channels and the internet. A few years ago, she got pulled up for tweeting vitriol at World Labour during a Hillsborough disaster memorial service. Her ectoplasm dripped in the Commons when she was found to have misled Parliament over the universal credit rollout. And she'd gone to lead Richie Rishi's anti-woke brigade and vowed to introduce a law to ban civil servants from wearing rainbow lanyards. TV News have paid Esther £30,000 in the last year. The costume department at the channel is kept busy by Labour MP Barry Gardner. Gardner is GBB's straight man, which doesn't mean much, doesn't mean anything really. It's a channel so dense that the light bending around it is often confused with the light at the end of the tunnel you see when you have a near-death experience. As an MP, Barry Gardner has taken $500,000 thereabouts from Chinese solicitors Christine Lee and Co.
Can you explain that?
Well, I'll...
And in January 2022, MI5 declared Gardner was a covert agent for the Chinese Communist Party.
Come on, tell me.
And you know that's nonsense.
It is not.
Let's start off talking about India and China, okay? The largest decarbonisation program in the world is happening in China, okay?
Well, you would say that.
Presumably that's why he got paid twice as much as Esther McVeigh, £7,660 last year. But GBN's main broadcast invocation is the Forum UK. Last year, ghastly Banshee Nightmare Channel spent over $500,000 hiring actors to recreate the peak of Hammer. Wank Sheep 30p Lee Anderson, multi-millionaire, took in £100,000 for his real-world show, playing an aging puck. What a way to spend Friday night. Churchgoers will be walking backwards from multi-millionaire Richard Tice's Sunday sermon, though the Register of Interests doesn't record how much Blue Mold Jim Davidson is paid. Maybe we'll never know, as often Tice's cash makes its way to secretive offshore bank trusts. The headliner, of course, is multi-millionaire Nigel Farage. Lord Whore, not a lord working as a whore, has in excess of 4,300 videos on their YouTube channel. Farage is sometimes confused with Donal Rigel from Farscape. Both are greedy, lying, cheating, arrogant racists, but Rigel at least has a heart and some courage. Last year, GB News paid Bully Ogliosi £429,000, although the New World puts that figure at £511,000. Farage and his party draw their power and income directly from the media. He made around $1.2 million in the last year from media and speaking arrangements alone. And we'll go into that more later in the show. Toadface's ex-buddy, multi-millionaire Rupert Lowe, was paid a significant £1,310 by GB News. Emerging from his basement a few months ago, Lowe reported to dead Twitter of illegal migrants off the Norfolk coast. Dinghies coming into Great Yarmouth right now! This triggered a huge number of urgent complaints to the Coast Guard. They discovered the boats were record-breaking ex-services, charity rowers fundraising for motor neuron disease. Sometimes the jokes write themselves. Rupert Lowtide was seen as Farage's chief rival in Lukewarm UK, yelling, "He's not the Messiah," and would be drummed out of the party by the rest of GB News' cast yelling, "They're all ganging up on me. An older boy at Reform pushed me down a hill. Farage is an alien trying to isolate me." That's a contrived segue to talk about Alien Isolation. Alien Isolation is a 2014 survival horror game. Last year, producers Creative Assembly announced that a sequel was in development. Here's friend of the channel, Simon Hodgkiss-Rogers, to talk about his love for the game and how the Alien IP flexes its fan service across multiple genres.
Horror video games have become more accessible over the last 2 decades than they ever have been before. What was once a low-selling niche genre now sees a player base in its millions. And a lot of those players are being introduced to horror for the very first time when they see big franchise names such as Alien. One of the finest examples of horror ever seen in the video game format, in my opinion, is Alien Isolation, a game that acts as a canonical sequel to the original movie by Ridley Scott, and that ties seamlessly to it, and also to the comics that expand the movie and game's lore, so much so it even found its way to having its very own prequel comic telling the events leading up to Alien Isolation in dramatic format. The game takes place a few years after the original movie, and a now adult Amanda Ripley has heard rumblings about the events surrounding her mother, Helen, and she wants to find out as much as she can. Over the next 20 hours plus, players are exposed to what it is like to be stalked, hunted, and quite frequently succumb to the onslaught of an unstoppable enemy, and a company that will do anything to get its hands on a creature that has shaped so very much of modern horror. The game was made with a huge amount of passion and love by Creative Assembly, a multi-award BAFTA-winning studio based in Leeds in the north of the United Kingdom, and it was actually their very first foray into the horror genre. They went so far as to trawl through terabyte upon terabyte of original imagery from behind the scenes of Ridley Scott's movie, the concepts, the behind-the-scenes backdrops, photos, blueprints, you name it. And they even went further by hiring the original orchestra that created the score for Ridley Scott's movie, asking them to write new music that fit perfectly alongside that movie for the video game. They went and hired the original cast members, Yaphet Kotto, Tom Skerritt, Veronica Cartwright, and the legendary Sigourney Weaver, in order to reprise their roles and record a wealth of vocal performances for both in-game character appearances, but also audio logs that act as a collectible for the player throughout their journey. That are hidden pretty well, to be honest, and also expand the lore within the whole Alien franchise as each one is picked up. Alien Isolation in itself is a perfect organism in so much that it doesn't just exist as an incredible piece of horror gaming for those that have been fans of gaming already. It brings in new players that have never really played games like this before, but that wish to experience the expanded story of the Alien franchise. It introduces gamers that were maybe too young to have seen the movie and draws them into a story that absolutely holds its own without needing any prior introduction. It's a game that should serve as an example to other studios and developers out there. A solid, single-player game that doesn't need to be held up by additional subscriptions, limited time events, co-op campaigns, or anything such. Horror gaming has really evolved from being something that was once sneered at by many and played in mom's basement. It now introduces people that may have never found their way to a particular movie or franchise, and it turns them quickly into fans, bringing an expanded fan base to franchises that are nearly 50 years old, with their storied lore, the movies, games, and comics, along with a huge pile of merchandise. Not only keep these franchises fresh in the minds of all fans, they also constantly keep the story alive, and studios wanting to further that story with a wealth of content, more merchandise, and of course, money.
Right around there. You're gonna have to be careful. Right!
Have you ever wondered how much a guest gets paid on BBC panel show Have I Got News for You? The answer is £2,000 from their budget. That's according to Liberal Democrat leader Ed Davey, declaring it to Parliament after his role in December 2024's show. There's a decent nickel and silver to be made for politicians when it comes to what the media are prepared to pay from their budget. The Dennis Reynolds of politics on British television is glassy-eyed death walker Fiona Bruce. Question Time is one of the key TV shows for political nerds. Grotbags Castle typically has on the same formula of guests. A faded railway sign overgrown with brush, Nasher from the Beano but drawn by artificial intelligence badly.
That is a very bad thing. It's a bad thing for the economy. It's a bad thing.
Winner of the local eye rolling championship. Sometimes she even talks to humans. And an honest-to-God ping-pong prick.
And Matthew Syed, the former table tennis champion turned writer and broadcaster. He once ran for Labour, but has just come out as a Conservative supporter.
Look, understanding and accepting transgendered people is easy compared to trans schizoid politic dickhead. Pure jump the sharkery. Game of Thrones final episode vibes. This week's production had the orientation of Wile E. Coyote after having been hit by rush hour. Regular venue Swindon hosted Futurama's Kif Kroker, Dame JP Morgan Chase, The Little Picture Show, and 6 opened litre bottles of Tesco vodka from the bins. Last year, Fiona Bruce's production team spent at least £3,268, 3/4 of that going to 4 Labour MPs, the rest split evenly between 2 Greens and a Lib Dem. There's no 2024 to 2025 declarations from the Conservative Party for fees, not even for taxi costs. This is because Fiona has set up a travelling Tories hostel inside the studios and takes care of costs of their 12-bed mixed dorms, ordinarily £12 per night. Any Questions is the BBC radio equivalent, and over the years it's been broadcast from schools, museums and prisons, and a synagogue. Records show the producers spent almost £2,400, and this seems disproportionately high for what ostensibly could have been done with 8 telephone calls. Emily Thornberry had the decency to donate her £400 to charity. The data around Any Questions is similar to Question Time, no Conservative declarations. Well, to be fair, they are triggered by talk of prisons. And it's the same names over and over again. Labour's James Murray, Lib Dem Daisy Cooper, and the Greens Ellie Chowns, twice. Cooper and Chowns declared taxi fares from appearing on Newsnight. Newsnight is a weekday 30-minute show coasting on its prior reputation as a home of special investigative journalism. An attempt at cheeky comic coziness in BBC style, coming over like surgery without anaesthetic and a strong whiff of cleaning fluids. Would you look at that backdrop too? It looks like a latter-day legion of Guy Fawkes are getting to work with the firelighters. Newsnight has 3 rotating hosts. This episode with Shortly Matt Shorley, interviewing know-it-alls, accentuating their vials. Wrong-wing columnists from the sort of newspapers that are adequately paying out wrong-wing MPs, so it becomes a kind of journalism economy. At the time of me recording this at the end of October, only Cooper and Chowns have declared income from Newsnight. Daisy Cooper asked for £92 and Ellie Chowns £46 for taxis to take them to the studio. Cooper's also acknowledging our cab fare of £54 from the Laura Kuenssberg show. Again, no receipts from Conservative Party MPs on Kuenssberg. Maybe they're paying out of their own pocket, those masters of altruism. Undeclared remuneration is illegal, or maybe they're just as late as a dodo. Another name in the media bubble is Green Party's Carla Denyer. She gave £1,800 from an ITV game show appearance to charity and got £800 from 2 other ITV slots. Parliamentary records show ITV don't shell out much. No Conservative has ever appeared on or benefited from ITV in the last year, according to the Register. But of course, the country is aware just how much the channel feature politicians. It is very rare for there not to be a money trail pointing to that. There are more disappearances of Tory MPs on the Register than your average Colombian death squad. Gifting is also big business, with media broadcasters shelling out more than you'd expect. Starting with the BBC, Denyer got £212 to have dinner and watch a film premiere. Scottish Liberal MP Christine Jardine, already charging £550 for a radio show, got another £64 for a briefing dinner. Labour's Tom Rutland took payments to enjoy the proms and watch Wimbledon. No, the tennis match didn't take place at the proms. That's 2 separate leisure experiences valued at £240 each. Meanwhile, his Labour colleague, Maya Ellis, was gifted a £300 hospitality ticket to Radio 2 in the park. I learned it was quite a large park, and there were a few other radio stations turned out, as well as some big musicians. Channel 4's big payouts come through VIP tickets to the Bafta Awards, tickets which media giants gift like Christmas socks. Last year, 4 paid out the value of about £6,000 between 3 MPs. Half the value amount went to Tory Saqib Bhatti, Brexiteer and Liz Truss fanboy. Perhaps he was there to get the horror award for 45 days later. Sky News have also paid for BAFTA seats, £900 to consultancy lobbyist Gregor Poynton MP. They've shelled out for Wembley tickets to the Oval Cricket Grounds, a gift to James Frith for something undisclosed, but it's not very thrifty. Emily Thornberry took £900 for a 1-hour podcast. What? Jesus, a 1-hour podcast appearance? Good God. And their highest paid declaring MP is Jess Phillips. However, she has said she donated her almost £2,500 payments from appearances to charity. Look, I'd like to finish my dinner, but paid for by the good folks at patreon.com/Andy Luke. So why don't you go and watch my good friend Jenny Eales talking about exactly why a certain Scottish movie should be left off everyone's watch lists.
I'm here to talk about a movie, and it is not to recommend that you watch this movie. It is a warning to stay away from this movie. Do not waste your time with it. In 2012, a movie was released called Sawney, Flesh of Man. Now, I discovered this because I have been researching cannibalism in Scottish history this year for my own Halloween episode. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have all my friends join me and watch this movie with me? What can go wrong? A horror based on the myth and legend that is Sawney being Scotland's very own West Coast cannibal. We watched it, and I squirmed throughout it. The lead actor is David Heyman, who's a known actor. So the very idea that he read this one and thought, this is a movie for me, this is the one I want to be the leading man of, baffles me. So I watched this through Amazon with my friends. And so it was to Amazon I went with my review. It's entitled, More Black Cab, Please, with a 1-star rating. I wrote, I'm surprised David Heyman agreed to be part of this. It's almost unbelievable that it was funded at all. Was the script read by anyone prior to filming beginning? Dialogue came across forced and unnatural. There was little to no character development, meaning it was difficult to care what happened to any of them. So many scenes had me repeating, no, over and over again. Not in a horrified way, more in a disbelieving sense. Viewers are almost certainly left wanting to have seen more of the Black Cab, as it was the best character in the thing. The storyline of this movie hangs together so loosely as to be almost indecipherable from moment to moment. The main revelation comes from a journalist who realizes that a black cab is involved in the disappearances and murders of certain people. Does he look in the city for this black cab? No. Somehow he finds himself up in the hills of Scotland, because where else do black cabs live? The scenes with David Heyman and the captured woman came across as if they were written by an incel teenager who harboured fantasies of what it might be like to have a captured woman all to himself and completely in their control. It was just the most skin-crawlingly cringeworthy scenes I have ever sat through. It was akin to watching sex scenes appear randomly and unprompted while sitting watching a film with your parents. I could not apologise strongly or often enough to those who sat through this movie with me. Please heed my warning. Do not watch this shit show of a horror movie. There's nothing horrific about it. There's nothing scary about it. There's too many confusing, disjointed patches of narrative to attempt to string together in your head to really soak in the ambience and atmosphere that they were presumably trying to go for. Please, if you want to laugh, don't watch it. Just read the reviews and have a happy Halloween from Random Scottish History.
Thanks, Jenny. You can support her work at patreon.com/Random Scottish History. Do so and she'll send you nice things like pens, stamps and a torch you can use when the nation's lighting goes down, like it inevitably will. Alternatively, you can keep lit by embracing the vibrant lights of a music festival. Gifting tickets for MPs and their friends is one of the ways Google tries to court lonely hearts in Parliament. Tories Nusrat Ghani and Dame Caroline got tickets valued together at £4,500. These were for entries to the Brit Awards and Glastonbury tickets. 6 Labour MPs received tickets as Glastonbury guests of YouTube: Dan Aldrich, Chris Curtis, Leigh Ingham, Steve Race, Jake Richards and Fred Thomas. A total worth, they say, of £16,764. God, I bet the YouTube tent is a lot of fun. YouTube tried the same trick last year when Jonathan Reynolds accepted £3,000 worth of value in hospitality. Shortly after that, Labour dropped a proposed tax of 10% on Google. The only time I want to see these storm-right fuckwits near a tent at Glastonbury is covered in mud and shit with Jeremy Corbyn on the pyramid stage. Google also run an AI parliamentary scheme, a presentation, networking and dinner event, valued around £427 a head for 4 Tories and 3 Red Tories. One of these wined and dined, Helen Whately, recently appeared on Question Time.
What do the panel think about the rate of adoption of AI within our public services, and how can we do more there to drive forward productivity so we don't need to push up taxes?
Well, if you'll forgive me, I'm going to park AI for the moment because I have a feeling we might come to that later, but thank you.
Oh shit. Well, turn the light out and pretend like there's nobody here. Ash Sarkar outlining the dehumanising activity of the technology.
AI is going to cure cancer, and now he's saying, don't worry, you can have sex with the robot. And I think that tells you something about the direction that this is going in.
It's interesting to watch Whately's reactions.
The example that the lady gave of someone going on a date to find out that the person they'd been chatting to had been using ChatGPT for all their talking points. That's a result of the insecurity of, well, what if this person doesn't like me? Who then design these platforms which bit by bit chip away at what it means for us to be human, because it exploits our insecurities.
Tellingly, the director never cuts to Whately while journalist Matthew Syed is delivering transparent warnings about AI's neutron bomb-like power. Whately is quick to extol the virtues of this.
An opportunity for us as a country, for instance, to increase our productivity in a way that we have struggled for years and years and years to improve our productivity, and on that our growth depends, and people's the prospect of people having a better standard of living. Care, like cures for cancer, much earlier detection of.
She frames her arguments around the idea of children and young people being able to critically think about the results AI gives. forgetting to mention that the little nippers haven't been privately educated about it in the way that she was by Google Core over a 5-star meal and an open bar tab. If you're seeing Screencleaner later than it was to go out, a likely suspect is YouTube. The platform, as a standard, employs AI to enact copyright blocks on edits which are legally protected. And it's something that this channel has suffered from on numerous occasions, with reviews of relatively innocuous episodes of Doctor Who, defined as election advertising in the United States, which is just going to make me try twice as hard. But what about that old tried and tested method of income for MPs, the book? It's time for a truly terrific top-of-the-text reader rundown of money for monographic paperbacks from Parliament for $1. Sorry, Mark Francois. Everyone knows Amazon self-publishing pays squat. No trust placements either for Andrew Mitchell, Rachel Reeves and Nat Shah, failing to write out their income. At number 12 is Keep Chicken Starmer on author's licensed collection royalties at £636. Labour's swivel-eyed loony Yvette Cooper is up from the starboard £200. There's nearly £3,000 between Yvette and Nick Thomas-Simmons in at number 10. Cafelli's Christopher Evans bangs him out at Bloomsbury to £4,734. And in at number 8, with his 8th book and breaking the Labour streak, is Jesse Norman with his Badnock Big Society One Nation bullshit. And at number 7, Liam Byrne, not the Irish criminal, just an offensive English office control freak, investigative bully, mighty xenophobe, and proven misuser of public funds. None of that stopped the stinky Santaran earning $8,650 from his 11 books. At 786 average, that's not much volume. Local Radio LBC have paid out a heft of stock shock jock MP MCs. £1,000 each to Ed Davey and Jeremy Hunt, £2,000 to Emily Thornbury, and £4,250 to Suella Braverman, a woman who understands how to make ears bleed and damns any law that prevents that. Apparently LBC also have to pay royalties to Corbyn every time James O'Brien breaks out in tears.
Jeremy Corbyn today will talk about a customs union but not the customs union, a bespoke deal. He may raise the spectres of Switzerland and Norway without actually acknowledging fully that they're in the single market, and he doesn't want to be. For reasons that remain fairly opaque, you have now a competition to see who can be most confused and confusing.
Reform are a party pretty much created by media and notions of celebrity. Essentially an illusion, something which doesn't exist, not until a summoning of dark forces, as you might with a particularly stubborn poo. Their new chairman, David Bull, was previously the host of Britain's Most Haunted.
We lift the lid. Well, already tonight, Derek seems to have picked up on this big accident.
Derek Akora referenced there, a Seance spoofer and good friend of Bull, publicly exposed as a grifter.
Area may well have been recently filled, which means this could be our chamber.
Chamber pot, yeah.
Beasts are said to emanate from that hill.
Bull by name, Bull by nature. Most Haunted is your typical paranormal realtor show. Reality show with a predatory approach to the naive and the vulnerable. In this clip, the new Reform Party chairman reports his suburban investigations to Richard Madley. Not quite a litmus test for mental stability himself.
And I knew someone was in my car.
Yes, it was you vacuous shill.
So I stopped the car in the middle of the wood, got into the boot, opened the boot, couldn't find any way.
And he could have climbed in and locked himself in just to be safe.
Got back into the car, drove really fast to the hotel.
The asylum seeker and migrant holiday inn. Yeah, I know it.
Derek Akora, who was the paranormal medium at that time.
Derek Akora. Yeah, go on.
And he said, your grandmother is with you.
No, Derek, that's the barmaid, Lise Keren.
So I was like, okay.
Are you drunk on half a pint?
And then he changed facially.
And you found you felt the same strong attraction as you did for David Boreanaz.
And then he jumped on me and tried to strangle me.
Yeah, I know how he feels.
And I'm not kidding, I had bouncers in those days, and they pulled the bouncers off. And then I went to bed.
The real money is in writing for digital media, though, and it's something Reform have been quick to realise. Dead Twitter have paid out £67,000 to the horror show, presumably for clickbait. God, doesn't Lee Anderson look like disgraced Prince Nonce Andrew? Weirdly, Farage did far less well than his ex-buddy Rupert Lowe, closer friend, ex-his owner Elon Musk. I'm not sure why they're standing in front of a painting of Dirk Benedict. Lowe is also a supporter of Tommy Robinson, whose real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon, who owns a Bentley and sabotaged the trial of a sexual grooming gang. But Farage is doing very well for himself. He's made £786 through Meta, $15,512 from Google for writing social media, and an astonishing £154,775 making cameo videos. More traditionally, MPs write for the newspapers, and there's still money to be made there. As with the BBC recruiting, it's a fairly small talent pool. Last year, Esther McVeigh received £15,893 from the Express. Ian Duncan Smith pitches often, receiving over £7,000 from 4 newspapers. Another favourite is Tom Tuggethat, who took over £3,000. The Telegraph are the largest print funder. They paid £200,000 to Conservative Party MPs, and Platform Nigel Farage with another $48,000. They might as well carry a full-page advert for the PKE Bull Hubbard electrometer. Great Britain! In at number 6, Labour's Torsten Bell supplements his significant Observer earnings with £10,865 from book revenue. Davey takes a break from his whistle-stop tour of Thunderland amusement adventure at £14,250. That poor child. But he's far short of Jess Phillips, who this year netted £39,975, now sliding down the charts after lying to Parliament last week. Diane Abbott has 1,000 over Phillips for A Woman Like Me from Viking Penguin. That's a prime target of scumbags on WhatsApp at number 3. At number 2, Queen of the Quakers and Bloomsbury favourite, Yuan Yang is the MP for Early and Woodley. Her books 2024 to 2025 have earned her £43,162. The English agency Japan have also paid her £31,753 for writing, so watch out the top slot. And holding on at number 1 probably is good trade for Minister of State for Trade Policy, prolific Chris Bryant writes up £69,000. Chris, give me that. Labour Together is an organisation that hit the headlines a few weeks ago. This is a party think tank funded by millionaires that didn't declare £730,000 worth of funding with intent. This happened, broadly speaking, between 2017 and 2020. It was something that was explained to them then and at great length from the regulatory body as very illegal. A new book by investigative journalist Paul Holden is already returning the story to the headlines. Fraud presents new evidence showing how the money went into securing Starmer's electoral positioning as Labour leader. Something key organisers Morgan McSweeney, Steve Reid, Imran Ahmed and others did by mass gaslighting everyone from Jeremy Corbyn to Anne Frank as anti-Semites. And to achieve the aim of Labour under Starmer, they took a dive in the 2019 election. Author Holden has seen documentation of McSweeney confessing he'd be caught doing what he was doing. The press, politicians and the courts haven't really caught up with them yet, but nowadays Labour Together are a lot more careful. This year, Rachel Reeves claimed £14,870 for writing for the organisation. If that's not taking the piss, David Lammy wrote to get paid £67,673 from the group that got him in the cabinet, and thus pays him. There are a lot of spooky things in Labour cabinets. Well, that's all from Screencleaner this time. Light our lanterns with a like, a shivering subscribe and a cackling comment. Then away and enjoy some hot steaming broth. Bye-o!